Alright, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has been out for a weekend now. I can't believe I'm making this video. If you were to ask me a year ago if I would have done this, I would have been like, no. Funny how life happens sometimes. So that's an official spoiler warning, by the way. If you have not yet seen this movie and you're planning on it, best not to watch this video because I'm going to be talking about what happens in this movie in detail. If you have seen it or you don't care, then stick around. So the movie starts out, it's actually kind of funny. Over the opening logos, we actually get that Toreador march that was never in the first movie at all. I'm glad they actually included it in this one. The first scene in the movie is a flashback to 1982 in the old Freddy Fazbear's location. You see those arcade games, which those are Easter eggs. Babe pointed those out to me. They're references to Five Nights at Freddy's Fanverse Initiative games that were funded by Scott Cawthon. There's Pop Goes, Five Nights at Candy's, and that last one Babe said looks like the FNAF World demo. That's a deep cut. This scene is the backstory of Charlie Emily, which they call her Charlotte in this movie, which frustrated me, but whatever. I'm gonna call her Charlie anyway. We see her with young Vanessa, who was her best friend, but what I really like about this scene is it shows the character of Charlie Emily. She was a good kid, which is accurate to the lore in the games. She was trying to save a kid from getting killed by William Afton, but the adults wouldn't listen to her, so she actually ended up giving her life to save this kid. Cause the kid's in her arms, she's running down the hallway, she ended up getting stabbed by him. It's just crazy. I was like, yeah, that's Charlie Emily. She's the most emotional character to me in the entire franchise of the games. And I love this. She drops on the floor dead, and the trapdoor gives way, and the puppet, which I'm gonna call the puppet. I know they call her the marionette in this movie, but kind of like with Charlotte and Charlie, I'm used to calling it the puppet, so that's what I'm gonna call it. I know in canon it's also called the marionette, but I'm just used to calling her the puppet. Point is, the puppet rises up with Charlie in her arms. I love this image. That's instantly iconic to fans right there, I'll say. And right after this opening scene, I was like, this movie's gonna be all about Charlie, Emily, and the puppet. Which I love because, like I said in my video about the trailer, that's my favorite character in all of Five Nights at Freddy's. So what can I say? I was happy to see the marionette get some shine. I'll try calling her the marionette. We'll see what happens. And so the opening credits are going on with the awesome music, the 8-bit graphics, and the newspaper clippings. It shows that old restaurant was shut down. And the cool thing during these credits is that we actually see a toy Foxy in there, like before it was taken apart and made into the mangle. That was really cool to see. So we learned that after the events of the first movie, Mike and Abby's aunt went around town blabbing about the events of it, and now there's a big Faz Fest going on. A big festival that kind of is commemorating the events, which is kind of fucked up. Not gonna lie. It reminds me of the Infinity Cones thing in Thor Love and Thunder. It's like, why would you do that? For the fans, I guess. Moving on to the scene where we catch up with Abby in the school bus. She's telling all the other students about the events of the first movie and how William Afton was killed by the spring locks in the suit. Well, killed, quote unquote. She says, they say his body is still at Freddy's in a secret room that hasn't been found yet. Babe and I were both like, that's gotta be touched on later on, and it totally is. I'll get to it. That teacher, Mr. Berg, holy shit. First off, he's played by Wayne Knight, who I love. I mean, who doesn't love Wayne Knight? Jurassic Park, Space Jam, the voice of Al from Toy Story 2. Love that dude, and he's great in this movie as a cartoonishly dickish teacher, and he is a piece of shit. Oh my god. The way he talks down to Abby, I was like, how are you a teacher? I get that it's not really supposed to be taken seriously, but I'm just saying. So later on, Mike finds Abby at the Fazbear's location from the first movie because she's trying to reunite with her friends. This is where she gets the Faz Talker because Mike's like, you got 1,000,000 tickets, here, pick your prize. And it's funny, that one plush he picks up, I know this isn't that from the movie, but it does make that or sound. We all cracked up at that because that audio didn't come from the games, it came from a viral video. It's just cool to see a movie include fan stuff like that. I've never really seen any other adaptation do that. Well, the Sonic first movie did, with Sonic. But anyway, we get to the scene where McKenna Grace and her Spectral Scoopers crew visit the original location, where we meet a surprise character, Michael Afton, played by Freddy Carter, who I'm just gonna call Creepy Eyebrows Man, cause he also kinda looks and acts like an evil cartoon. He just looks like he was designed to be a creep. So yeah, Michael Afton is in the games. There's been speculation as to whether Mike Schmidt and Michael Afton were the same person in the games. This movie confirms that no, they're different people, at least in these movies. So that's cool. But looking back on his character, he didn't really do much in this movie. He was there. That's pretty much it. Well, actually, that's not true. He is the one who called McKenna Grace and her crew over to this location. And that does get this whole ball rolling. So, alright, it's all because of him. So me saying he doesn't do much, what I mean is he doesn't do much after that. He gets the ball rolling and then he's just there for the rest of the movie. But it's in this scene where we see some of these toy animatronics for the first time. That one kid, Alex, is killed by the mangle, which was actually a pretty cool kill because the camera drops and then we see like dismembered body parts falling down. That was cool for PG-13. But more importantly, Lisa, McKenna Grace's character, she goes down and is ultimately possessed by the puppet, Charlie Emily, the marionette, which is actually really cool. I mean, any shot where we see the puppet with her marionette, any scene where we see the marionette with her mask with the creepy lighting, I was like, awesome. I love that mask. To me, it's iconic at this point, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. The problem I have with this, though, is that when Charlie possesses someone, I mean, first of all, I do get that. It is kind of marionette puppet-like, that she possesses people and uses their bodies like a puppet. So I love the double meaning there. That's really cool and really clever. But what kind of rubbed me personally the wrong way is that when these people are possessed, it's still their faces. They have like the marionette makeup on them and their eyes are glowing. It was a neatish design, but to me, that mask is so iconic. I love that mask so much. It's a really cool design. I just wish we could have seen that mask more. Because in the games, the whole like possessing people and turning their faces into marionette makeup faces, that's not a thing in the games. That was completely invented for this movie. Like after the opening scene with the marionette, I was like, cool, the marionette's gonna be causing chaos and we're gonna be seeing a lot of that marionette with her mask. But we see her with her mask sometimes. But more often, it's a person that she's possessing with marionette makeup. You know, the purple tears and the red cheek marks. I don't know, I just personally would have liked to have seen the mask more. That's just me though. Although, if we are gonna talk about some things from the games, how about that flashback with Vanessa, huh? Where she's running from her father, she goes down the hallway into that room, and she turns around and we see, surprise, Circus Baby, who in the games didn't show up until the 5th one, Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. So this was a big surprise to all of us. Babe and I were like, holy shit. Circus Baby's pretty cool. And she has her own backstory and lore in the games that I'm not gonna get into here. What I will say though is if she's gonna show up in the later movies, are they gonna bring in Elizabeth? Like, what are they gonna do with that? I don't know, but I guess we'll see if these movies keep going for as long as they want to, which I'm sure they will. But that was a pretty cool cameo, gotta say. So the Fast Talker brings Abby to the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location, where we meet Toy Chica, voiced by Megan Fox, which is great because when she first comes out, she's like, Abby, we missed you. I was actually looking forward to hearing the voice acting in this movie since it was announced a few weeks ago who was gonna be voicing the toy animatronics, and they got a spectrum of people. Yeah, Toy Chica is voiced by Megan Fox. I was like, why is this really good voice acting actually? This is probably the best Megan Fox role I've ever seen. Because yeah, I actually thought she did a really good job as the voice of Toy Chica. And Toy Chica gets a lot of focus in this movie. For a movie called Five Nights at Freddy's, you would think Freddy would have more shine, but no, it's all about Toy Chica and the marionette. Those are the two animatronics I said in my review that get center stage. It's the marionette and Toy Chica. They're the most important animatronic characters in this movie. Everyone else, they have their moments. They just don't get a whole lot of shine. Which, you know, fair enough, I guess. It was still cool to see everyone. But Vanessa goes back to the original location to try to rescue Abby. This is where she meets Charlie. We learn that these animatronics here cannot leave because there's a perimeter lock in place. But Vanessa knows the code because she's Afton's kid. Pretty sweet Easter egg where Charlie actually says a line from Ultimate Custom Night. I don't hate you, but you'll need to stay out of my way. I remember after she said that, I kind of looked at Babe and he was like, yep, that's from UCN. That was sweet. So she draws Abby back from the science fair to get them out. She puts in the code and now these animatronics can free roam the world. This is where we meet Toy Freddy and Toy Bonnie, which is also funny. Toy Freddy is voiced by Kellen Goff, who in the games voices every iteration of Freddy. Well, not every iteration, but most of them. Toy Freddy in the games has a kind of cowboy-ish sounding cartoony voice. That's what you get for leaving me hanging. Kind of sounds like Goofy. Like a southernish accent. But in this movie, they went with the glam rock Freddy voice from Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, which is really popular. People know it. I get it, I guess. It's just not accurate. Because when he's like, I'm gonna go rip the heads off some bad people, I was like, It was weird. It was kind of a jump scare, you know, metaphorically. And meanwhile, Toy Bonnie is voiced by Matt Pat. And if you have a FNAF loving bone in your body, you know who Matt Pat is. Even if you don't, you probably still know who Matt Pat is. That's just a theory. A game theory. But when Toy Bonnie talks in this movie, he's like, I'm Bonnie. Can I be your friend? I was like, that's Matt Pat? Maybe he was pitched up. Maybe he's doing a falsetto voice. It was just, again, it was a jump scare, metaphorically. It's crazy, I love it. And also, the Mangle gets out. Which, alright, I can accept the fact that they didn't give the Mangle a voice. Mangle does have voice lines in Ultimate Custom Night, but fair enough, because Mangle is a mess. And Mangle was cool to see in this movie. For the 5 minutes they show up on screen, I would have liked to have seen like a good shot of the Mangle in its glory. Because in the one scene, it really gets to shine where he's on top of Vanessa's car. It is obviously a CG Mangle, and sure, I understand. The Mangle's a really complicated design. I'm sure Jim Henson's workshop was like, I don't think we can take that on. We can make parts of it, but not the whole thing. Alright, fine, cowards. But I do like the explanation that they give for why these animatronics are going crazy. Because they're not being possessed by ghost kids like the classic ones in the first movie. I theorized about this in my video about the trailer. Like, they're controlled by AI. Are there other ghost kids possessing them that are completely different kids from the originals? In this movie, they explain that they're being wirelessly controlled by the marionette, by Charlie, which again goes into the marionette controlling everyone motif. That's awesome. Yeah, Babe and I totally buy that explanation. It's great. I mean, it's damn near impossible. There's no way that a Bluetooth connection or whatever it is can stretch that far, but whatever, it's fiction, I'll roll with it. We get to the scene where Abby's like, how are we gonna get back to the science fair? And then the cab driver pulls up. I was like, oh great, it's Corey X Kenshin again. Is it Corey Kenshin? Corey X Kenshin? Who cameoed in the first movie. He's another famous FNAF YouTuber. And the song playing in the cab is Talking in Your Sleep by the Romantics. Great song and solid throwback to the first movie. And then when he sees Toy Chica in the back, her beak is missing. I was wondering if we were gonna get Toy Chica without her beak, because that's also from the games. Freaky, dude. So that was a nice little Easter egg filled scene. Then we get to the part where Mike visits Henry Emily, played by Skeet Ulrich. Yeah, Henry Emily fans know from Pizza Sim, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, the 6th game in the series. He's the one who gives that whole speech at the end that ties everything together and made me emotional.
I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter.
Really important character, actually, because it's revealed, actually at the end of the credits, I'll touch on it now, that he was William Afton's business partner for many years back in the day. They worked on the whole Freddy Fazbear franchise together, and Charlie was Henry Emily's daughter. William Afton killed her, and it was covered up. So now Henry Emily's become kind of a conspiracy theorist, except not conspiracy, because it's totally true. So now Mike goes back to the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location, where now he has to play Five Nights at Freddy's 2 with the withered animatronics. This was great. For all 5 minutes that the Wizards are in this movie, they're awesome. The designs are perfectly ripped from the games. So creepy, so badass looking, and also wirelessly controlled by Charlie. The inaccurate thing about them, though, is the explanation for them in this movie. Vanessa says they were prototypes used for parts. Babe and I were like, that's not lore accurate. In the games, the withered animatronics were the original animatronics in the original location, prior to the toy ones. So they changed that for this movie, not sure why, but whatever. They still look awesome. And so Mike is in the office. It's funny, because he's like, there's no door? What idiot designed this place? Shadow Bonnie shows up for like half a second, or RXQ, whatever the hell it's called. Before Mike turns on his flashlight, we see Shadow Bonnie there for like half a second. That was awesome, because we were all like, oh! I'm sure Mike didn't even see that. It was a cool Easter egg, though. And he's using the mask, because yeah, in the games, the mask makes the other animatronics think that you're also an animatronic, which is also funny, because when that first starts to happen, you see Toy Chica's point of view. It says security breach on the screen. Solid reference to Five Nights at Freddy's security breach. Kind of on the nose, but still funny. Eventually, Mike shuts all the animatronics down, except for Toy Chica, who's bringing Abby home. And this is actually really cool, because she puts Abby in bed, then she starts shaking and convulsing like there's a chest burster inside of her, which there kind of is. The marionette's mask bursts from inside her. I was like, is that a reference to Lefty? Lefty in the games from the 6th game, Pizza Sim, was designed by Henry Emily to hold Charlie the marionette inside of it. That's a fact in the lore. I kind of saw this scene in this movie as an homage to that. That was cool. Great jump scare there too. The marionette's mask springing out at the screen. I love that shit. Reminded me of her jump scare from the 2nd game, where she leaps out and is like, give me a hug! And I will say this though, I know I said I don't like when their faces are all puppetified, marionettified, whatever. But Abby with that marionette makeup was fucking creepy, dude. Holy shit. Oh my god. That would have given me nightmares as a kid. And I would be in my room in the dark, checking the door to see if she's down the hallway. Can't wait for that shit. Yeah, great design there, gotta say. I think I still would have preferred the mask, but whatever, I'm contradicting myself. Let's move on. Mike comes back, uses the music box to put her to sleep, which yeah, that is the technique you use to keep the marionette in her box in the 2nd game. And then Michael Afton shows up for his big reveal, heavy sarcasm quotes. He's like, yeah, I'm here. I fueled the fire behind FazFest. Sure you did, buddy, I guess. Then he just gets knocked out by their friend. See you later, I guess, Mr. Useless. And all the toy animatronics are closing in on them, and then we have what I've heard people call the Avengers Endgame moment, because all the classic ones come back and they beat the shit out of the toys, because Mike was asking for them earlier in the only scene he showed any emotion in this movie. Yeah, the classic ones show up: Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy. I mean, we in the audience, we were cheering, sure, but I wouldn't call this nearly as epic as Avengers Endgame. Oh, it's a joke. Alright, fine. So the classics, the ghost kids, show up to save the day, and then, as if on cue, they just break down and they die again. These animatronics were not made to leave Freddy's, so they're moving on, which made me go, alright, that timing was really convenient. Why didn't they break down as soon as they stepped foot out the door? But whatever, it's fiction, I'll roll with it. But the cool thing about about this is that the main kid, I think it's Cassidy, Golden Freddy, or Yellow Bear if you want to be completely accurate, he tells Mike, he's like, we were keeping him at bay, which we saw at the end of the first movie, that's what they were doing, but now that we're moving on, we can't be there to watch over him anymore. And Mike's like, who are you talking about? We all knew. That's set up for the third movie, I'll get to that in a minute. And since Vanessa never mentioned having a brother, Mike's like, stay away from us, we can't trust you, which still don't really care about their relationship, whatever it may be. But for now, yeah, Mike and Abby are like, we don't want anything to do with you, Vanessa. So they leave, and the last scene in the movie is a pretty cool cliffhanger, not gonna lie, because Vanessa gets possessed by Charlie. Yeah, Charlie hasn't really been taken care of yet, so she's still around, now she's lurking in Vanessa's body, and then it cuts to black. I was like, no. And then the credits came on, I was like, alright, cliffhanger. That kind of seemed anticlimactic, because there was no like big musical cue or anything. I honestly thought there was at least like 20 minutes of movie to go after that. I thought it was gonna pick up, but no, the credits came on, I was like, alright, it's a really good cliffhanger, but they could have, played that up more, at least in my opinion. And then the mid-credits scene, this group of guys shows up at the Freddy Fazbear's location from the first movie, and they find the secret room that Abby was talking about in the school bus, where we see Springtrap, and they're talking about setting up a haunted house. We were all like, yeah, this is set up for Five Nights at Freddy's 3, because that's what the third game is. The Fazbear Frights, and you're watching out for Springtrap. So this was great setup for that, and I'll be honest, I'm looking forward to it in about 2 years from now, I imagine. Because Springtrap is William Afton, because he ain't gone yet, he always comes back. So that should be interesting. The third movie is going to deal with Springtrap and possess Vanessa. Possessa. Maybe she'll become Vanny. I mean, most likely, eventually that'll happen. We'll just have to wait and see. And then at the end of all the credits is where we hear Henry Emily's message that he used to work with William Afton back in the day. And then it's cut off, so I was like, alright, is he being attacked by Vanessa, Charlie? Most likely. Guess we'll find out. In conclusion, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is a movie for Five Nights at Freddy's fans. In case you couldn't tell from the whole video you just watched. All the shit I was blabbing about, that's all Five Nights at Freddy's fans stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making this video, you know. As a fan, I did enjoy this movie, for the most part. It's not perfect, it's not gonna be in my top favorite movies of 2025 list. Not even close. Just as a fan, I found it enjoyable. Especially the theatrical experience, watching it with a whole audience of fans. It's always fun. I just realized that they're not the best movies ever. It just depends on what angle you want to look at it from. So what are your theories and predictions for the third movie and the movie franchise going forward? You think they're gonna go to 4 and beyond? Whatever you think, I'd love to hear it, so go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!